Hey guys, my name is Brad of Brave the Woods, and today I want to talk to you guys about the two most important tools that I have in my office that I use daily as a professional illustrator. The Wacom Cintiq Pro and the iPad Pro. A lot of folks have asked me which I would recommend of the two and also if they're worth the price because some are significantly more expensive than others. But my purpose here isn't to convince you one way or the other, it's really just to give you the pros and cons of each. I mean, I use these both daily for professional artwork, so let me just tell you about them and you can make your own decision. So let's get started. All right, so we're gonna start things off by talking about this awesome piece of machinery right here. It's definitely the biggest and most expensive piece of machinery in my office. It's the Wacom Cintiq Pro. It's 24 inches and it's a creative pen display, which means it's not a touch screen. There is that option, but you'd have to pay extra for that. That's an upgrade. And one that I didn't really feel like making. I usually just use my hotkeys and things like that on my keyboard. And there's also this new little remote here that can help you with that as well. We'll talk about that in a second. But this setup right here, the 24-inch pen display, is $2,200 roughly. I think I paid $2,200 at the time for it, which is pretty expensive. It's the most expensive I've paid for a drawing tablet. It's not a computer, it's a drawing tablet. There is a little slot in the back that allows you to, if you purchase this, what's it called? It's like a Wacom engine module or something. It basically makes this into a standalone PC, which is an added $3,000 plus, which I think is outrageous personally, because I don't know why I would ever need that, because you can hook it straight up with just a single cord to my, I have it hooked up to my MacBook Pro. And so it also doubles as a second screen. So I loop it in and connect it to this screen next to me, my other monitor. And yeah, so this setup right here, it takes up quite a bit of real estate on my desk. But there's definitely pros and cons to that. So let me talk a little bit more about this machine. Actually, before I go much further, I need to tell you that this Ergo base is $500 extra. It does not come with the Cintiq. It is separate, and it's kind of expensive for a base. I mean, not kind of, it really is expensive for a base, and I debated whether I should get it or not. For what I do, I absolutely love the base. I wish I had a deeper desk to put it on, which is probably the only problem I have with it. Because if you look in the back, it goes back pretty far. But it's heavy, it's stable, and you can move. If you grab this there's a little button down here. You pull that, and now it frees up the screen to be able to move it back by holding. And you can do that by pulling these little levers in the back of the screen, which is pretty natural and feels easy enough. But you can change that so it feels a little bit, whatever angle that you feel most comfortable using. But it also, like I said, it can be that, that screen display if you want it, or you can also bring it up, and it's really sturdy. So if I was to stand up and push on that, I could lay my whole arm on there and still feel very comfortable. So if you wanted to use it as like a standing desk option, or you could even like pull this closer to you and pull it down over the desk onto your lap, which I've done before and is actually pretty comfortable. So there is that. It's like I said, it's not a cheap option, but that is available, and I thought it was worth it because I use it daily. So take that into consideration. Now, if you don't get the base, it still works. It has these little feet, if you look in the back, that pull out, and they're at a really nice angle, and you can kind of adjust those still, but you don't need to have this base if you don't need it as a second screen. There's a few added features that are kind of nice on this, like it has the USB ports, but also the SD card slot, so you could, view images directly in there, or plug in your USB drive, which is nice, and you can plug, like I have in here right now, my little USB port for my wireless mouse, and that works with everything. And so it's kind of nice to be able to have this. So it is kind of have a little mini computer inside, but it definitely is just a drawing tablet. It just has a few other little nice features that the previous versions did not. All right, so the main reason why I love the Cintiq Pro is the size is really, really helpful. Being this large, I can rest my arm on here. So if I'm gonna be doing any sort of painting, I can feel comfortable, resting my arm on the surface and being able to have just more control, which is nice. But also when I'm working on something large scale, like for this highly detailed map of Raleigh, North Carolina here, if I zoom out, I can still see all the details. And if I'm doing that on a smaller screen, sometimes it's hard to see it full size, like a poster or whatnot. It's hard to work on that way because you're not really sure how it looks because it's always kind of tiny in your screen. But because it's a large screen, you can see all that detail, which really, really does help. Also, the glass on here is really nice. It's got kind of a matte texture to it, so that teamed up with the stylus make it feel very comfortable and smooth. You don't hear it dragging across or skipping across the screen, which is really big for me because if you're drawing nonstop, it can already feel very foreign drawing digitally, but being able to make it just feel a little bit closer to the real thing is nice, and making sure that it doesn't skip around there is really nice. So that it already has a nice finish to it. The glass goes all the way to the edge. You don't have any lipping over here. That's just where the screen is, which is also nice. The graphics are incredible. It's very, very high quality. You don't see any sort of pixelation or fuzziness, and the colors are bright and vibrant and accurate. So those are all things that I look for when I'm getting a graphics tablet. But the number one thing that I look for is to make sure that there's two things. Number one is two parts. Part one is that there's no lag when I'm drawing. I don't want to see a lag. Now this has got a little bit of a lag only because that's Photoshop's fault because I have so many layers here and it's such a large project. But I will say when I am drawing here, it doesn't feel like I have much of a lag at all, which is huge. It aids in making it feel more natural to draw. But also the distance, the little gap between the physical stylus and your mark that you're putting on the screen, you don't want that gap to be too far. And it's pretty darn accurate. Like I would say, I hardly see any glass sometimes, or see any gap. Sometimes you'll see some distance between, because this has like layers of glass, so you'll kind of see it be offset a little bit because of that. But I don't see any of that on here, barely at all. If I do, it's maybe if you just look at the side, you might see a little bit of a disparity of where that is. But it's not bad, much better than all the other ones that I've worked on. Also, this little express key hotkey remote is really handy. I like it. I like that it has all the different buttons that you can use to set. There's a ton of buttons on here, and it's nice because you can scroll and change the brush size on a whim, as opposed to me just using my keyboard, because you kind of have this little funky arm thing and it hurts my hand sometimes. So having this, I can put it like below the table and just work with my right hand and have all the buttons and everything I need, hotkeys, all done right here. It does take some getting used to. It's not easy at first, but it does get a lot easier. I still find myself kind of bouncing between the two, but I will say it gets easier, so I wouldn't give up on it right away because you might really, really love it. And it has a little magnetic back to it, so it sits nicely on your surface here. So as I've said, there's a lot to love about the Cintiq Pro. Now there's a few little downsides that may be deal breakers for you. They definitely weren't for me. But it's also because of what I use it for. So I'm a professional illustrator, use this daily, make money using this. So immediately you think the price tag, which is very expensive, the most high-end tablet that you can purchase. So if it's more of a hobbyist type of thing that you're doing with the illustration, maybe hold off on this. Unless you got loads of money, then go ahead and buy it. It's an awesome machine. If I was just a hobbyist, I definitely would not purchase this. There's lots of great other models that Wacom puts out that are much, much cheaper and very good for what you would want to use it for. So as a professional illustrator doing this daily, I would pick this up, but it is expensive. It takes up a lot of real estate on your desk. So remember that, especially with the screen itself, even if I didn't have the ergo base, the base makes it even harder to put on your desk. I wish my desk was deeper so that this didn't have to hang off in the back and I can maneuver it a little bit better. So that's one thing to think about. Also, this express key hotkey remote it has to be plugged in and charged, which is a little frustrating. So you have this little cord here and you have to plug it into the side here with the USB port. And if you rely on this and it runs out of charge, you forget to charge it, it's kind of
One thing that
annoying
surprised
to
me
use.
was the fan noise.
So
I kind of assumed it was going to be
may
more silent,
but
but
again,
it's
I just use my
audible and
keyboard,
it's
so it's not a
constant.
huge
So
deal.
beware
Really,
that
the
there's
biggest things
definitely
are
a fan
the fan
noise.
noise and the sheer size of it and the price if it's not something that you're going to be using professionally. All right, so now we get to talk about the iPad Pro. This one's pretty cool because so many people have asked me about this, and I've noticed a trend amongst illustrators that they're kind of using the iPad Pro more and more in their day-to-day work, and I think there's lots of reasons why. And let me go through those in a second. I'll tell you all the pros here in a second. But first off, here's some specs. This one's a little bit older. It's a 2015 model, but it's still fantastic. It's 12.9 inches. It's 128 gigabytes of storage, which is great. I feel like that's more than enough for me. The newer ones, they start at 64, but then jump right up to like 256 and higher, up to like a terabyte, I think, of storage. And that gets up more in like your $1,500, $1,700 range, which is pretty expensive. So when I bought mine, it was $1,200. I think now this version will be, you can probably get a refurbished one for about $600. So not a bad option. It's a fantastic quality and still it's Wi-Fi enabled. It's awesome. But the newer ones, around $1,200 for probably what most of you would need. And you can look to verify the prices. I'm sure they've changed by now. But also this is a really, really thin, lightweight, and easy to carry around, which is one of the biggest perks of having the iPad Pro is that it's so mobile. And the 12.9 inches isn't anything to laugh at. I mean, it's still a good size screen, especially for once you get working on it, and it is a touch screen, which is nice. But being able to work in here, I don't feel very limited. It doesn't feel like it's too small. Even moving from my giant Cintiq, the 24 inches, and then my 32-inch monitor over here, it still doesn't feel like crazy limiting or restrictive. So the 12.9 inches, I would definitely recommend that over the smaller sizes. But it's a good size, especially for the fact that you can bring this around with you anywhere you want to go. So again, some of the biggest pros for me are just the fact that it's mobile. It's actually a large size. It's not very heavy, but I can also do everything else that I want on it. I have all my other apps and programs. It's a computer. It's not just a drawing tablet. So to think that the price is that much cheaper than this guy, but also having all the abilities of basically a computer, then that could be a real big incentive for some of you who are kind of like, I don't know if I should put that much money into something. Well, it's worth it if you have a computer as well as your drawing tablet. It doubles as that. So yeah, there are still some cons. I mean, if you might feel a little limited if you only have to use the apps that are here. You know, there are those third-party apps, like I said, like AstroPad, that'll allow you to sync or link up your computer and use this as a tablet for your computer programs like Photoshop and Illustrator. And you don't have to deal with all the watered down versions, but they're getting better and better, and Photoshop is going to be coming out for iPad Pro, a full version for iPad Pro. So I'm super excited for that, and maybe by the time you're watching this video, it's already out and you're loving it, which would be awesome. But so that can be you're limited to the apps that are given here, but again, there's so many flippin' apps. Another con, I guess, comes with the setup here that I have going. So let me explain to you all the accessories I have going on. The one thing that you're going to have to get is the Apple Pencil. This pencil is by far the best stylus I have ever used, including that Cintiq stylus there. The Cintiq stylus has all those little buttons, that's unique and that's nice. Kind of cycle through brushes or sizes or things. But this just feels so much more natural, and the drawing experience on the iPad Pro is just insane. There's no lag, there's no anything. It feels very, very natural. Holding this in your hand, the Apple Pencil feels very natural in your hand. It is an added price, so it's $99 extra to buy this. And I guess one of the weird things about the Apple Pencil is the fact that, so I've added this little dongle here to hold this on. So if you don't have, there's a few little weird things. Let me show you. So you know, have you have the top here. That can get lost super easy. But also the way that you have to put it in is kind of weird. When I say kind of, I mean really weird. So you just plug it into the lightning port at the bottom and charges it. It charges very, very fast. But it seems like such a hazard. I feel like it's just going to snap off and it just looks hilarious. The newer ones I think have fixed that. I hope so. But yeah, so I have this little guy right here to hold on to everything so I don't lose them. And that's kind of nice. And then it also comes, and all this stuff that I'm going to be showing, all these accessories, everything that I have here is going to be below, so you can look below and see the links. Then I have this little stopper here, and that's just so that if I drop it, it's not going to break that pencil tip. You can actually swap out the nibs on this, so if it goes bad, you can still swap that out, which is nice. And if you wanted to plug this in, there's a little adapter. Just use like your lightning cable that you charge your phone with, and then you can add this to it on one end and it plugs in there. So it's still kind of a weird charging scenario. I think you could buy some other accessories to solve that problem for you, which is nice, but that's my setup right now with the Apple Pencil. Then you go on to the fact that it's so flat and it's hard to it's hard to lay in your legs if you're going to be sitting on a couch, but I still haven't found a solution for that except for just putting a bunch of pillows underneath me. If you guys have an idea, something better that or a solution, please let me know. Put that in the comments below. But yeah, I've just strains my neck like crazy to draw on it flat. I know some people do. I can't. So I bought this this wedge here. This wedge was kind of expensive. It's like 50 or 60 bucks, but it's been so worth it. It's very, very heavy duty, well made. It's made by Park Slope, or not Park Slope, sorry. It's made by 12 South and it's called the Park Slope. But it's perfect for what I need. It's the perfect angle. It's very, very strong. Like I said, it doesn't move anywhere on me. So that's worth picking up, I would say. And the last thing on the iPad Pro that I've noticed was I have a matte screen. So that's what I loved about the Cintiq, is that matte finish. This is a very high gloss finish to it, so it sounds like you're like tapping, or you're like when you're dragging your stylus across the screen. Sometimes it kind of skips or it sticks, and it makes a weird clacking noise because it's straight on glass. And I did not like it, so I actually bought these this little, like for like $8. It came as like a 3-pack on Amazon of matte screen protectors that made this, now it's silent now, and it makes it feel just like you're drawing on paper. It's a much more natural experience, and I would recommend it for anyone. $8, you get 3 of them. It's definitely worth a shot. You can rip it off if you hate it, but it's been like the game changer for myself. Well, I hope all that was helpful. The Cintiq Pro is an amazing tool, super powerful. It does take up a lot of space on your desk, and it's not mobile. I mean, technically you can make it mobile by adding that computer section to the back for some more money, but I don't recommend that being a mobile solution. Whereas your iPad Pro is extremely mobile, but it also lacks in size, and so it really just comes down to what you want your tablet to do. Do you want it just to be a drawing tablet, or do you want it to also be a computer like the iPad Pro? The difference really is in how much you're going to spend too. I mean, you're going to be spending a bit more for the Cintiq if you're going to be, especially if you're going to be buying the base along with it, which is that added $500, which can get really pricey. And I would honestly say if you're not going to be a professional illustrator and you're more of a hobbyist, then I would say the Cintiq Pro is not really the route that you should go. There's much cheaper versions that cost far less. So I would recommend going that route. But the iPad Pro, again, like I said, is an awesome option for those hobbyists and professionals because it can work for both. And if you're a hobbyist, you can feel better about the purchase, even though it could be a little bit more expensive. Not more than the Cintiq, but if it's just the price alone, just knowing that it also can be like your computer as well is really comforting to know when you're purchasing it. So I use both. I love both of them, and I use them daily for different reasons. Hopefully that was helpful for you, and you can kind of make your own informed decision now moving forward. Thank you so much for watching this video. This was one of those videos that I wanted to put out for a long time because people have been asking a lot about this. But if you're new here, please go ahead and subscribe and follow along. We're doing lots more awesome stuff like this. And for those of you who've been here and follow me already, thank you so much for your support. And please like this video if you like it. And we will see you next time.